Tonight, I, Lady Hazelthorn, open a door for you, not a door to a room, not a door to a building, but a door to a life made of ambition, fire, conflict, risk, and an unshakable belief in destiny, a life that has inspired millions, angered millions, and fascinated the entire world, because this is not an ordinary story, this is the rise of Donald J. Trump. The wind of New York carries a certain electricity, a pulse, a heartbeat that never slows down. It is a city made of concrete dreams and steel skeletons, where the sky is not a limit, it is simply the next goal, in that city, in the borough of Queens. In the summer of 1946, a child was born into a world already shaped by ambition. A child who would one day shape ambition itself. His first cries were not heard in a palace, nor in the halls of government, but in a simple hospital room, yet destiny listened anyway. His mother, Mary, gentle, soft-spoken, delicate, held him like a whisper. His father, Fred, strict, powerful, unbending, looked at the newborn boy, and saw not a child, but a future, for the Trump household was not an ordinary home, it was a workshop of discipline, a battlefield of expectations, a training ground where weakness was not allowed, and success was the only language understood. Young Donald grew up watching his father turn empty land into rising buildings, turn mud into money, turn opportunities into dominance, and even before he could spell his own name, he knew he was not meant for the small world, he was meant for something larger, much larger. His childhood was not a soft story, it was loud, competitive, intense. A young boy always trying to speak louder, run faster, win bigger than everyone around him. He didn't just want to be noticed, he wanted to be unforgettable. Inside him lived a fire that refused to sit quietly, a fire that grew. With every challenge, every argument, every moment he felt underestimated, he was a storm forming in slow motion. And New York was the perfect sky for a storm to rise. As he walked the streets of Queens, he saw buildings stretching into the clouds, towers that dared to defy the ground. He watched construction workers hammer steel into place, watched concrete mixers roar, watched blueprints become realities, and inside his young mind, a vision began to form, a vision of golden towers, of glamorous lobbies, of buildings taller, brighter, bolder than anything the city had seen. He didn't want to inherit his father's empire, he wanted to surpass it, to outgrow it, to transform it into something global. But ambition rarely grows in silence, it grows in conflict. As Donald entered his teenage years, his fire became difficult to control. Schools called with complaints, teachers struggled with his energy, his confidence, his refusal to obey. His father watched him carefully, not with softness, but with calculation. Fred Trump believed that discipline was the greatest gift a father could give, and so, in a moment that would shape the future of America, young Donald Trump was sent to New York Military Academy. It was not a punishment, it was a forge, a place meant to turn raw metal into steel, and within those rigid walls, Donald learned structure, he learned toughness, he learned command, he learned that leadership is not given, it is taken, he learned to stand tall, learned to speak with certainty, learned to carry himself not as a boy, but as a future force. There, in the disciplined march of military boots, his destiny sharpened, and by the time he left that academy, the world could no longer mold him. He would mold the world instead. As he stepped into adulthood, New York was waiting, big, chaotic, hungry New York, the city where dreams climb ladders and fall from cliffs, a place where millions try, and only a few succeed. A place where names are forgotten, unless they carve themselves into the skyline. Donald Trump was ready for Wharton, ready for finance, ready to turn education into a weapon, and business into a battlefield. While other students studied for grades, Donald studied for greatness. He studied real estate, not as a subject, but as a destiny. He didn't dream of working for someone, he dreamed of becoming a symbol, and as he graduated and stepped into the business world, he entered it not as an apprentice, but as a disruptor, because Donald Trump's dream was never small, never quiet, never safe. He wanted to build buildings that touched the clouds, he wanted to build casinos that glowed like palaces, he wanted to build a brand that people recognized before they even saw his face. And as his first deals formed, as contracts signed, as cranes lifted metal into the sky, the world began to watch. But this story, this journey, is not just about skyscrapers and gold letters. No, it is about transformation. It is about ambition so loud, it echoes across decades. It is about a businessman becoming a celebrity becoming a movement. Becoming a president. It is about America, divided, electrified, mesmerized, watching one man rise through controversy, through criticism, through storms of his own making. This is the story of Donald Trump. Before the politics, before the presidency, before the protests, before the victories, and before the world divided itself in his name, this story begins long before the White House, long before the Oval Office, long before his hand touched the Bible, and swore the presidential oath. Tonight, you and I take the very first step into a life of power, fame, fire, and destiny, a life that shaped the world around it, a life that continues to echo, a life that began as a boy in Queens, with a dream too large for his neighborhood, and a name too loud for his city. I am Lady Hazelthorn, and this is the beginning of the rise of Donald Trump. Every story begins small, even the ones that one day shake the entire world. Tonight, I, Lady Hazelthorn, will take you into the quiet origins of a boy who grew up surrounded by noise of machines, noise of ambition, noise of expectations, but inside himself, he carried a silence. A silence filled with questions no child should ask so young, questions like, what does it mean to win? What does it take to rise? Why does my name carry weight? Even before I understand why? This is the beginning. Sparkles 1. A house of expectations, the Trump home in Queens was not a place of softness. It was a home built from schedules, rules, and the firm footsteps of a man named Fred Trump, a builder, a disciplinarian, a father whose presence filled the room before he even entered it. Young Donald learned early that the world wasn't gentle. It wasn't forgiving, and it certainly wasn't equal. Some children grew up with bedtime stories. Donald grew up with blueprints, workers, and construction sites, and with a father who believed that every son must become twice as strong, twice as sharp, twice as resilient as the world around him. And so, little Donald did not learn to dream, he learned to conquer. Sparkles 2. The troublemaker, the teachers in his early school years described him as energetic, restless, uncontainable. He was the boy who questioned rules, the boy who tested limits, the boy who refused to sit quietly in a world that demanded obedience, and sometimes, that kind of fire scares people. By the age of 13, Donald wasn't just bending the rules, he was breaking the atmosphere of the classroom itself. His father decided something had to change, not with punishment, but with discipline, real discipline, and so Donald was sent away, to the New York Military Academy, a place where boys learn to become men, or break trying. Sparkles 3. The Military Academy, the Academy. If the Trump home was strict, the Academy was steel, early mornings, cold beds, precise uniforms, commands shouted through the crisp air, and somewhere among those marching footsteps, a transformation began. The restless boy became a disciplined competitor. The troublemaker became a leader. The boy with too much energy became the young man who knew how to use it. At the academy, Donald didn't just survive, he thrived. He became captain, a leader among boys who had once laughed at him, challenged him, dismissed him. Now, they followed him, not because they had to, but because this boy from Queens carried something rare, a belief in himself that no uniform, no instructor, no rule, could ever take away. Sparkles 4. The first taste of power, and it was there, in the echo of marching boots, that Donald felt something for the first time, the thrill of command, the electricity of leadership, the fire of ambition. He felt, deep inside his spirit, I am not meant to be small. Not meant to be hidden in some corner of New York. No, his dreams reached far beyond the academy walls, and slowly, quietly, a new idea began forming in his young mind. My name must stand for something. Something big. Something unforgettable. Sparkles 5. The shadow of his father, but even as Donald rose, as he found strength in discipline and confidence in leadership, there was always one shadow following him, Fred Trump, the father who built thousands of homes, who shaped neighborhoods, who created opportunities for families who would never meet him. Donald admired him, resented him, feared him, wanted to surpass him. Perhaps that is what destiny does. it plants rivalry even between fathers and sons. Fred Trump didn't raise his children to be comfortable, he raised them to fight, to push, to win. And Donald, even as a teenager, refused to lose. Sparkles 6. Returning home, a different boy. When Donald returned home from the academy, he wasn't the same boy who left. His walk was sharper, his posture straighter, his voice more controlled. He no longer blended into the world around him, he pushed through it. And his father saw it. For the first time in his life, Fred Trump looked at his son not as a child, but as a potential successor, not yet an equal, no, but a seed with dangerous potential. Dangerous because Donald didn't want to inherit his father's world, he wanted to outgrow it. Sparkles 7. The university years, Donald entered Fordham University, and later transferred to the Wharton School of Finance. A place where young minds were sharpened into weapons of business. Wharton didn't create Donald Trump, but it gave him language, the vocabulary of deals, markets, risks, and leverage. He was fascinated, not by money itself, but by the movement of power. He studied people more than books, he studied cities more than theories, he studied opportunity more than history, and slowly, brick by brick, idea by idea, the dream inside him grew larger. Sparkles 8. The boy who wanted a city. By the time he graduated, Donald had a vision. While his father built homes in neighborhoods, Donald wanted skyscrapers, structures that cut through clouds, buildings that made the world look up and whisper his name. Friends dreamt of jobs, Donald dreamt of skylines. Friends talked about salaries, Donald talked about empires. Friends wanted careers, Donald wanted legacy. People laughed, some smiled politely, a few whispered that he would fail. But underneath their doubts, Donald saw something they didn't: fear. People fear what is bigger than they can imagine, and Donald's dreams were far, far bigger than what anyone around him could see. 9. The beginning of a legend. And so, with youth still in his eyes, and ambition roaring in his chest, Donald J. Trump stepped into the world, a world that had no idea what was coming. He didn't start with fame, he didn't start with controversy, he didn't start with politics, he started with a simple, burning truth: I will not be forgotten. And that truth would one day carry him from the streets of Queens to the towers of Manhattan to the global spotlight and finally into the Oval Office. But that journey, that climb, that fight, every destiny has a doorway, and for Donald J. Trump, that doorway was Manhattan. But let me take you there slowly, step by step, into the heartbeat of a city that consumes some men and crowns others. Tonight, we descend into the world that shaped a businessman into an empire builder. Sparkles 1. Entering Manhattan, a different kind of jungle. When young Donald stepped into Manhattan, he did not arrive quietly. He arrived like a spark, landing in the center of a forest, waiting, begging, to burn. Manhattan, a city made of glass, steel, money, stories, broken dreams, and impossible triumphs. A city where fortunes rise by noon and crumble by sunset. A city where every building has a heartbeat and every street has a price. And in the middle of that storm stood Donald, not intimidated, but electrified. He felt something powerful whisper to him: this is where legends are born. This is where I belong. Sparkles 2. A city built on opportunity and blood. Manhattan at that time was a battleground of real estate giants, old families, old money, old names carved into the foundations of skyscrapers. To them, Donald was a nobody, a loud, ambitious boy from Queens, who didn't belong in their kingdom. They looked at him the way wolves look at a lone newcomer, with suspicion, hunger, and amusement. But Donald didn't fear wolves.
He watched them, studied them, understood their weaknesses and their hunger, and then slowly, quietly, with a confidence rare for his age, he stepped into their world without asking for permission. Sparkles 3. The first big move, the Commodore Hotel. Most businessmen start small, a small building, a small deal, a small success, but Donald Trump did not arrive on Earth to live a small life. He set his eyes on a crumbling, dying giant, the Commodore Hotel, a place most investors had abandoned as hopeless, where others saw a lost building. Donald saw an opportunity, where they saw ruins. He saw rebirth, where they saw risk. He saw destiny. He proposed a deal so bold, so outrageous, so impossible, that senior businessmen laughed at him, but Donald smiled politely and ignored every one of them. it wasn't arrogance, it was certainty, because he carried something the older wolves had lost, the hunger to create, and with the help of clever negotiation, government incentives, and relentless pressure, Donald turned the dying Commodore into the glowing Grand Hyatt Hotel. Overnight, the city noticed him, the wolves felt the shift in the wind, a new predator had entered the city. 4. The birth of Trump Tower, but Donald wasn't done. Success is a sweet taste, but for some men, it becomes an addiction. He wanted something iconic. An announcement to the world, and so he chose the most expensive land in Manhattan. He chose marble when others used concrete, gold where others used steel, glass that reflected the sky. Instead of hiding it, he imagined a tower that wasn't just a building, but a declaration of ambition, a declaration of identity, a declaration of power. Thus began the creation of Trump Tower, a monument not just of architecture, but of ego, confidence, and destiny. People mocked him, architects doubted him, competitors dismissed him, but Donald Trump built it anyway, and when Trump Tower opened, the world did not laugh, it stared. The black glass tower, the shimmering gold interior, the waterfall walls, Trump Tower was unlike anything Manhattan had seen, and with that one building, Donald Trump did something few men ever do. He carved his name into the skyline. Sparkles 5. The media begins to notice. Donald understood something that other businessmen overlooked. Power is not just built, it is displayed. He appeared in magazines, on talk shows, at glamorous events, in interviews, where he shaped his image, as boldly as he shaped his buildings. He cultivated a persona, sharp, confident, unstoppable, and the public noticed, the cameras noticed, the media, once indifferent, now followed him. He became, not just a businessman, but a symbol of success, a symbol people both admired and envied. Sparkle 6. The Art of the Deal, the book that changed everything. Then came the book, The Art of the Deal. It wasn't just a book, it was a manifesto, a roadmap, a window into the mind of a man who had turned ambition into an art form. Millions read it, millions talked about it. The world suddenly saw Donald Trump, not as a real estate developer, but as a teacher of power. His philosophy became clear: think big. Protect the downside. Maximize options. Leverage is everything. Fight back, hard. People repeated his lines, like modern scripture, and the Trump name? It transformed from a signature into a global brand. 7. Failure arrives and tests his soul, but no empire grows without storms. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, a financial collapse struck, banks trembled, markets shook, real estate prices plunged, and Donald, the man the media had crowned, fell hard. Buildings slipped out of his control, debts mounted, projects collapsed, critics celebrated. They said he was finished, they said the Trump name had lost its shine. They said the empire was dead, but Donald J. Trump was not a man who surrendered. 8. The fight back. While others hid, Donald walked straight into the storm. He renegotiated debts, made deals with banks, sold assets, fought every obstacle. He worked, not as a billionaire, but as a man with everything to lose, and slowly, brick by brick, deal by deal, meeting by meeting, he rebuilt himself, a comeback so dramatic that the world could not ignore it. His survival wasn't luck, it was will, it was stubbornness. It was the absolute refusal to let failure be the final chapter. Sparkles 9. Entering entertainment, The Apprentice. Then came another transformation. Donald stepped into television, but he didn't just appear, he dominated. With The Apprentice, he became a cultural force, a new kind of celebrity, a businessman turned icon. Millions watched him say, "You're fired." But beneath the catchphrase, the world saw something else: a leader, a decision-maker, a man who commanded every room he walked into. And slowly, something unexpected began to form, not in the city, not in business, in the hearts of millions of Americans, who saw him not as a celebrity, but as a man who understood them, a man unafraid to speak loudly, in a world full of whispers, a man who might, just might, one day walk into Washington. 10. The stage is set, the future calls. By the time part 2 ends, one thing becomes clear: Donald Trump did not just build buildings. He built a persona, a name, a legacy, a myth, a brand, a force powerful enough to challenge political kings, to disrupt the order, to ignite millions, and to divide a nation, but unite a movement, and that movement, that storm. My name is Lady Hazelthorn, and as we move deeper into the life of Donald J. Trump, we step into a chapter where ambition transforms into empire, and confidence becomes a weapon sharper than steel. This is the era when Trump discovered that power is not only built from buildings. It is built from influence, it is built from attention, it is built from becoming the name people cannot escape. Today, in Part 3, we explore the rise of The Apprentice, the expansion of the Trump brands, and the shifting political winds that slowly pushed a billionaire toward the White House, long before he even realized it himself. So sit back, let the world fade for a moment, and step with me into the firestorm of fame that transformed Donald Trump from a businessman into a cultural phenomenon. White Medium Star Chapter 1. When business became entertainment, the early 2000s brought an unexpected opportunity. Television producers approached Donald Trump with a concept, a show about business, competition, ruthlessness, leadership, a show where he wasn't just a participant, he was the judge, the boss, the symbol of success. That show would be called The Apprentice. When the first episode aired, America stopped. Because on their screens they saw something different, a billionaire who spoke like a drill sergeant, dressed like a king, and dismissed failure with 2 words that became legend: "You're fired." The Apprentice wasn't just a show, it was a stage. A throne, a megaphone powerful enough to broadcast Trump's identity into every home across the nation. People didn't just watch him, they memorized him, they studied him, they argued about him. He became larger than life, not just a businessman, not just a celebrity, but a symbol of power in America. And with every episode, his influence grew. Chapter 2. The expansion of the Trump brand. His businesses were no longer only buildings. The Trump empire expanded into Trump hotels, Trump golf courses, Trump residential towers, Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump Airlines, formerly the Eastern Shuttle, Trump Tower Manila, Trump International Vancouver, Trump Taj Mahal Casino, Trump Plaza, Trump University, Trump Home Decor Line, Trump Books and Publications, Trump Ice Water, Trump Entertainment Resorts. His name became a brand, and that brand became a currency, and that currency became a weapon. Some projects succeeded brilliantly, some collapsed, some sparked controversy, but Trump understood one thing better than anyone. As long as people talk about you, you never lose power. White Medium Star Chapter 3. Battles, lawsuits, and the art of survival. With more fame came more enemies, more headlines, more lawsuits, more investigations, more attacks. Trump faced financial controversies, casino bankruptcies, lawsuits against his university, media criticism, political commentators mocking his style, business rivals trying to destroy his reputation. But every time he fell, he emerged again. Every setback made his supporters admire him more, every criticism made him louder, every attack sharpened his image of a man who refuses to bow. He loved the chaos, he fed from the noise, he understood a truth few leaders ever discover. Attention is the real currency of leadership. White Medium Star Chapter 4. The political spark. From businessman to voice of a nation, for years Trump appeared on talk shows, radio programs, and interviews. He spoke about China, trade, borders, jobs leaving America, corruption in Washington, American manufacturing collapsing, the middle class losing hope, and slowly, without planning, he became the voice of millions who felt ignored. People began asking, why isn't he running for president? He talks more honestly than the politicians. He says things others are afraid to say. In 2011, he tested the waters, a brief exploration, a whisper of a possibility, a tease. The media laughed, politicians ignored him, but ordinary citizens, they listened, they liked his bluntness, they liked his confidence, they liked his refusal to apologize. A seed was planted, a spark had ignited, a storm was gathering. White Medium Star Chapter 5. The Apprentice ends. But the nation remembers the boss. The Apprentice gave Trump something no businessman ever had before: unfiltered emotional connection with millions of Americans, even after he left the show. His influence remained. For more than a decade, households saw him judge ambition, reward strength, punish failure, command authority, demand excellence. He wasn't acting, he didn't pretend, he simply was who he had always been, a man who believed in winning above everything else. Trump walked away from reality TV not as a celebrity, but as a cultural symbol of leadership, and in the hearts of millions, he became the man who could fix what they believed was broken. America didn't. Forget him, America was waiting for him. White Medium Star Chapter 6, The Storm Before the Campaign. As the years passed, Trump grew louder in political discussions. He criticized broken immigration systems, weak borders, bad trade deals, overly dependent foreign policy, job outsourcing, rising debt. His speeches, interviews, and tweets gained explosive popularity. Some loved him, some hated him, but no one ignored him. A truth was emerging. He wasn't just preparing for politics, he was becoming the center of American politics. Long before he announced his campaign, Trump had already built an army. Blue-collar workers, small business owners, frustrated middle-class families, veterans, factory workers, rural Americans, conservatives, independents, even lifelong Democrats disappointed by their own party. A nation divided was beginning to look toward a man who had never held political office. And that made him even more attractive. White Medium Star Chapter 7, The Final Push. A billionaire approaches destiny. By 2014, rumors swirled in every corner of American politics. Trump might run for president. No, he won't. He's just building attention. He's not serious. But behind the scenes, something had changed. Trump felt something he couldn't ignore, a pull. A calling, a destiny. He had conquered business, he had conquered media, he had conquered fame. There was only one mountain left, the highest mountain in the world, the White House. And so, with cameras waiting, the global media watching, and millions of people ready for a new kind of leader, Donald Trump prepared for a decision that would shake the foundations of history. Trump's announcement came on a bright June morning. He stood in front of a golden backdrop, cameras flashing, microphones raised. The words he spoke were simple, blunt, unapologetic. I am officially running for President of the United States. The room erupted, supporters cheered, critics laughed. Journalists rushed for analysis. No one had expected this, not politicians, not analysts, not the American public. Yet here he was, a billionaire outsider, without prior political office, stepping into the most powerful race in the world. From that moment, the campaign was no longer a choice, it was destiny. Sparkles too. Early reactions. The media frenzy was immediate. Headlines screamed, Trump shock, billionaire enters race, unfit, unprepared, or genius. Political elites scoffed, pollsters doubted him, rivals dismissed him as a reality TV star chasing a headline. But Donald Trump thrived on skepticism. He knew something they had forgotten. People were hungry for honesty, not polished speeches, not scripted answers, not promises politicians never intended to keep. He spoke to frustrations, to anger, to fears, and millions responded. He had captured a moment, and the nation, whether ready or not, began to pay attention. Sparkles 3. Building the momentum, Trump's campaign rallies became legendary. Crowds stretched for miles, braving heat, wind, rain, and snow. They cheered for his name, they chanted slogans, they carried signs proclaiming support. The rallies were raw, emotional, loud, chaotic, but in the chaos, there was purpose. Donald Trump had a stage unlike any politician before him. And he commanded it like a conductor directing a symphony of energy, anger, and hope. Every speech reinforced a simple message: America is being taken for granted. I will fight for you. I will win for you. It resonated deeply, especially with those who felt left behind by decades of policy, globalization, and government bureaucracy. Sparkles 4. Rivals and confrontations. The Republican primary became a battlefield. Trump faced seasoned politicians, senators, governors, lifelong campaigners, experts in debate, negotiation, and political maneuvering. They tried to underestimate him, they attacked him, they mocked him, they called him inexperienced, arrogant, and unconventional. But Donald had already mastered one key element from decades in business: the art of confrontation. He fought back, relentlessly. He controlled the narrative, he turned attacks into fuel, and, perhaps most importantly, he owned every headline. It wasn't politics as usual, it was spectacle, it was strategy, it was disruption. 5. Media, controversy, and the storm. Controversy followed Trump everywhere, every statement dissected, every tweet amplified, every opponent analyzed. Some accused him of being divisive, others saw him as a voice of truth, some feared the consequences, some admired his courage. The media, the traditional power brokers, and political elites began to panic, but Trump thrived. Every attack only strengthened his connection with supporters, every critique made him appear authentic in the eyes of the very people the system had overlooked. It was no longer a campaign, it was a movement. Sparkle 6. The clash with Hillary Clinton. When the Democratic nominee, Hillary Clinton, emerged, the stage was set for a historic showdown. Trump faced a lifetime politician with decades of experience, vast networks of support, and intricate political machinery, yet Donald's advantage lay in his outsider status. He could speak freely, he could defy norms, he could tap directly into the anger, fear, and hope of millions of Americans. He turned debates into spectacle, his speeches into viral events, and the race into something unprecedented, a media-fueled drama, watched worldwide. Sparkle 7. Strategy, branding, and showmanship. The Trump campaign was not just political, it was branding. Every rally amplified loyalty, every tweet commanded attention, every slogan, sign, and handshake reinforced recognition. It was the genius of someone who had spent decades building his name, turning it into a global brand, and now turning it into a political weapon. The campaign's message was simple, loud, and direct: America first. Make America great again. Fight for the people the system ignores. The simplicity resonated, the clarity connected, and the energy was unstoppable. Sparkles 8. Poll surprises and the road to Election Day. Throughout the campaign, polls fluctuated. Some suggested Trump could never win, some predicted landslides for Clinton. But the rallies, the media attention, and the emotional energy of his supporters steadily pushed Trump forward. He defied expectations, he challenged conventional wisdom, he reminded the nation that the system doesn't control destiny, people do. Sparkles 9. Election night, the unexpected victory. November 8, 2016, arrived. America held its breath. Trump's supporters watched, some trembling with hope, some filled with disbelief. As results poured in, state by state, county by county, the shock became clear. Donald J. Trump had done the impossible. He had defeated the most powerful political machine in modern history. He had been elected President of the United States. It was victory, controversy, triumph, and upheaval. All at once, the nation was stunned, the world was watching, and a billionaire outsider had become the leader of the free world. Sparkles 10. Part 4, The Lesson. This chapter of Donald Trump's life is more than just politics. It is the culmination of decades of ambition, risk, and showmanship. It is the meeting point of business, media, and destiny. He didn't just win an election, he shattered expectations, he disrupted norms, he showed the world that audacity, persistence, and personal branding could change history. And that, dear listener, is where Part 4 ends, because the real challenge, the test of leadership, legacy, and power, was just beginning. When Donald J. Trump entered the White House, he did not step into a traditional presidency, he stormed it. This was not a time for quiet diplomacy, not a time for compromise, not a time for polite whispers. It was a time for audacity, disruption, and unrelenting ambition. It was a presidency unlike any the United States had seen in modern history. Tonight, we explore that journey, the victories, the controversies, the global attention, and the legacy that began the moment he was sworn in. Sparkles 1. Inauguration Day, a new era, January 20th, 2017, Washington, D.C. glimmered with ceremonial splendor. Crowds lined the streets, flags waved, cameras broadcast the moment worldwide. Donald Trump, standing tall, raised his right hand, placed his hand on the Bible, and took the oath of office. It was more than tradition, it was history. The billionaire outsider was now the most powerful man in the world. From skyscrapers to the Oval Office, Trump had climbed the ultimate ladder, and the world could no longer ignore him. Sparkles 2. The first days, strategy and execution. From day one, Trump approached the presidency like a CEO taking over a struggling corporation. Executive orders replaced long legislative processes. Decisions were direct, public, and dramatic. His team, handpicked from business, politics, and media, executed strategies with precision. He understood the power of momentum. He knew that speed, visibility, and decisiveness were as important in politics as they were in real estate. Trump's presidency was transactional. Every decision was calculated for impact, domestic and global. Sparkles 3. Economy and jobs. The businessman in power. One of Trump's key priorities was economic growth, tax reform initiatives, deregulation of key industries, negotiation of trade deals with foreign nations, encouragement of domestic manufacturing. He approached each task as a businessman. Numbers, contracts, incentives, tools familiar to him, were now applied to the machinery of government. Supporters praised him for action, critics questioned methods. But one thing was undeniable: Trump brought business thinking to the corridors of power. Sparkles 4. Foreign policy. The global stage. Trump's approach to foreign affairs was unconventional. He challenged long-standing alliances. He negotiated personally with leaders who had been considered untouchable. He publicly criticized policies that did not align with his vision. The world watched with fascination and trepidation. Trump's speeches were direct, sometimes controversial, always commanding attention. Diplomacy became theater, negotiation became spectacle. The world had to adjust to a new kind of presidency. Sparkles 5. Media and communication. The power of voice. Trump's relationship with media was one of domination and disruption. Press conferences drew global headlines. Social media became a daily channel of communication. Every tweet, every statement, every public appearance was amplified. Critics labeled him unorthodox. Supporters celebrated his transparency. Through it all, Trump understood a timeless principle: visibility equals power. He had mastered this principle in business. He applied it to the nation, and he never relented. 6. The rallies continue, a connection with the people. Even as president, Trump never abandoned his hallmark of personal connection with citizens. Rallies continued, packed with thousands. The energy was electric. Chants, flags, and slogans filled stadiums. He spoke directly to the concerns of Americans. He created loyalty through presence, not just policy. He maintained the relationship with the public that had propelled him to the presidency. 7. Controversy and opposition. No presidency is without challenge. Trump faced impeachment inquiries, intense media scrutiny, opposition from political rivals, protests and demonstrations, legal battles and investigations. Yet, even in adversity, he remained resilient. Every challenge was a test, every criticism, a spark to reinforce his narrative. Trump's philosophy remained consistent: attack, respond, dominate, and never back down. Sparkles 8. Major achievements and policy wins. Trump's supporters celebrated historic tax reforms, deregulation to encourage business, criminal justice reform, strengthening of the military, foreign policy deals including peace initiatives and trade renegotiations. These moments were framed as victories, not just politically, but symbolically, proof of a businessman president who delivered results. Sparkles 9. The election of 2020, an unprecedented challenge. As 2020 approached, Trump faced a global pandemic, social unrest, and economic challenges. The election became one of the most contentious in U.S. history. He maintained a strong base of support, while facing unprecedented opposition and criticism. Trump's strategy mirrored his past campaigns: direct communication, public engagement, and rallying his supporters. Though the election outcome was disputed and controversial, Trump's influence, persona, and methods left an indelible mark on American politics. Sparkles 10. Part 5, Legacy and Reflection. Donald J. Trump's presidency is a study in contradiction, audacity, and impact. Outsider meets institution, celebrity meets world power, business meets governance, controversy meets loyalty. He redefined the American presidency, altered political norms, and inspired loyalty and debate around the globe, whether celebrated or criticized. Trump's influence is undeniable. And as we close Part 5, we see that his journey, from Queens to Manhattan to the White House, is more than biography. It is a story of ambition, risk, resilience, and audacity. The world will continue to study, debate, and feel the echoes of his decisions for decades to come. Every story that reaches a pinnacle continues; every chapter that ends is only a pause in the next movement. and for Donald J. Trump, the White House was not the finale, it was a new beginning. Tonight, I, Lady Hazelthorn, will take you through the years after the presidency, the ongoing influence, the business expansions, the public persona, and the reflection of a life built to dominate, challenge, and inspire. Sparkles 1. Returning to the private world, after leaving the White House, Trump returned to Mar-a-Lago, his private residences, and his business operations. But the world he returned to was not quiet, it was scrutinizing, it was dissecting, it was waiting. For some, he had lost political power, for others, he had gained something larger, a symbol of defiance against the expected norms of leadership. Trump did not retreat, he re-engaged with media, rallies, social platforms, and public events. He continued to shape his brand and narrative, even outside formal office. Sparkles 2. Business and branding continue. The Trump empire continued to expand globally, hotels in Europe, Asia, and the Americas, real estate developments in new cities, licensing of the Trump name to new ventures, golf courses and resorts maintaining international prestige. Trump understood that power is cumulative, every property, every brand, every public appearance added to the narrative of influence he had spent decades building. It was not just business, it was legacy in motion. Sparkles 3. Media presence and public influence. Even after leaving office, Trump remained a dominant figure in media, television interviews, social media presence, public rallies, political commentary. His voice continued to resonate with millions. His opinions shaped discourse. His brand of direct communication remained central to his identity. He knew, better than most, that attention is power, and he commanded it relentlessly. 4. Political influence post-presidency. Trump did not disappear from politics, he endorsed candidates, influenced elections, and continued to speak directly to his base. His endorsements shifted outcomes, his speeches energized supporters, his commentary challenged both parties. Even outside formal office, Trump remained a kingmaker, a symbol, and a figure who could not be ignored. Sparkles 5. Controversy and challenges. The post-presidency years were not without turbulence, legal challenges related to business and elections, media scrutiny on personal and political decisions, polarizing public opinion, social and political controversies. Yet, Trump maintained a consistent approach. Direct, unapologetic, and relentless, he had faced adversity his entire life, and he knew how to convert challenges into platforms for influence, dialogue, and loyalty. Sparkles 6. The global image. Trump's influence extended beyond America. International media continued to cover him intensely. Foreign leaders monitored his commentary and endorsements. The global perception of his persona remained divisive yet undeniable. Trump became a symbol not only of American politics, but of global audacity, influence, and disruption. Sparkles 7. Reflections on a life built to dominate. From Queens to Manhattan, from skyscrapers to television, from the Oval Office to rallies across the nation. Trump's life is a study in ambition, risk, resilience, and vision. He built empires, survived failures, mastered media, and captured the attention of millions across decades. And through it all, one truth remains clear: Donald Trump is a man who refuses to fade quietly. He transforms every challenge into opportunity. He turns visibility into influence. He converts controversy into loyalty. 8. Lessons from a life unparalleled. Trump's life teaches us about persistence, never giving up despite failures, branding, turning a name into a global identity, communication, commanding attention like few can, risk, daring where others hesitate, resilience, confronting opposition and thriving, whether admired, critiqued, or debated. Donald Trump remains one of the most impactful figures of his generation. Sparkles 9. The next chapter. Life continues beyond politics, beyond business, beyond media attention. Trump's story is still unfolding. Every action, every statement, every venture adds layers to a life built on ambition, audacity, and unyielding drive. The world watches. The world debates, and history records. Sparkles 10. Part 6. Closing thoughts. So here we are, at the end of Part 6, a life that started in Queens, that navigated skyscrapers, media, campaigns, and the highest office in the world, a life that continues beyond headlines, controversies, and political cycles. Donald J. Trump's journey is a story of relentless ambition, a story of influence, perseverance, and audacity. And as we move into the next chapters of this life story, we will explore the full reflection, the deep analysis, and the broader view of his entire life, the legacy he is leaving, the battles he continues to fight, and the mark he has left on history. Tonight, dear listener, we step behind the gold-plated gates, behind the towers, behind the power, and into the world of the man himself, the world the cameras rarely show, the life Donald Trump built not for the public, but for himself and his family. Sparkles 1. Childhood and family roots. Donald John Trump was born in Queens, New York, to Fred and Mary Trump. From the beginning, his life was shaped by both privilege and expectation. Fred Trump, a real estate developer, instilled in him discipline, ambition, and an understanding of business. Mary Trump offered warmth, moral guidance, and strength. From an early age, Donald learned to compete fiercely, to negotiate with precision, to never accept mediocrity. Family dinners often doubled as lessons in strategy and vision. Every conversation contained hidden rules about success, wealth, and influence. Sparkles 2. Marriages and family dynamics. Donald Trump's personal life has always been public. He married 3 times: Ivana Trump, his first wife, with whom he had Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric, a partnership that blended business and family, lessons in ambition, power, and resilience. Marla Maples, mother of Tiffany Trump, a chapter marked by media attention, complexity, and public scrutiny. Melania Trump, his current wife, mother of Barron, a presence that combined elegance, mystery, and support. A strategic partner in public life. Through all marriages, Trump's relationships were inseparable from his public persona. Love, loyalty, conflict, and ambition intertwined in ways both private and highly visible. Sparkles 3. Parenting and family legacy. Donald Trump invested heavily in raising his children. Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric were groomed to understand business. Tiffany and Barron were offered unique opportunities to observe and participate. Family became both a support system and a foundation for public image. His children often acted as public extensions of his brand. Appearing at rallies, meetings, and media events, the Trump family became synonymous with ambition, resilience, and visibility. Sparkles 4. Personal character and habits. Behind the persona is a man of routines and rituals: early mornings, strategic thinking sessions, media monitoring, constant engagement with business, politics, and public perception. He thrives on energy, attention, and challenge. He enjoys confrontation and debate, yet also values loyalty and trust in inner circles. Trump's personal habits mirror his public philosophy: direct, decisive, and audacious. Sparkles 5. Health, lifestyle, and resilience. Trump has maintained a vigorous personal life. He exercises intermittently, follows a unique diet, and enjoys golf, travel, and leisure. His energy has often surprised critics, enduring long rallies, public events, and media scrutiny. Resilience is as much a part of his personal life as it is a trait that fuels his public endeavors. Sparkle 6. Personal image and style. From the beginning, Trump understood the importance of presentation: signature hairstyle, tailored suits, public poise, consistent branding. He projects confidence and authority, sometimes controversial, always deliberate. Even private appearances often maintain a level of strategic visibility, reflecting his belief that personal image is inseparable from influence. Sparkle 7. Lessons from family and personal life. Ambition starts at home, loyalty is tested in adversity, leadership is as much personal as public. Every action, personal or professional, contributes to legacy. Trump's personal life is a reflection of his broader philosophy: visibility, audacity, persistence, and influence. Sparkles 8. Part 7, Closing Thoughts. In this chapter, we saw the man behind the headlines, the child of Queens, the husband, the father, the strategist of family and ambition. This is the layer of Donald Trump that shapes all others. Without family, discipline, and personal resilience, the public achievements would never have been possible. Tonight, we step into the golden towers, the glittering hotels, the vast landscapes of influence that Donald J. Trump has created over decades. We explore not politics, not campaigns, but the empires built from ambition, risk, and relentless vision. I, Lady Hazelthorn, will guide you through the buildings, the brands, and the global reach of a man who turned his name into currency and power. Sparkles 1. The foundation. Trump real estate. Donald Trump's business empire began with real estate, inherited in part from his father, Fred Trump, but expanded through his audacity and vision. Queens and Brooklyn housing developments, the early foundation of his business acumen. Manhattan skyscrapers. Trump Tower, a symbol of luxury and personal branding. Office buildings and condos, high-profile properties that shaped New York's skyline. These ventures were not only financial, they were statements of power. Every building reflected ambition, attention to detail, and the Trump philosophy, go big or go home. Sparkles 2. Casinos, hotels, and resorts. Trump expanded into hospitality and entertainment, leaving a global mark. Atlantic City casinos, Taj Mahal, Trump Plaza, Trump Marina, luxury hotels, Trump International in New York, Chicago, and Las Vegas, resorts and golf courses, Mar-a-Lago, Trump National Golf Club, courses worldwide. These ventures combined real estate expertise with luxury branding. Trump understood that experience, prestige, and image sell as much as concrete and steel. Sparkles 3. The Trump brand, licensing and global reach. Donald Trump's most powerful tool was not just property, it was his name. Trump licensed his name to products, buildings, and projects globally, from skyscrapers in Vancouver to hotels in Panama and Dubai. Consumer products, Trump steaks, Trump vodka, Trump water, Trump home decor. The brand extended beyond buildings, it became a global symbol of power, wealth, and audacity. Even when ventures failed, the name carried influence, often outlasting the financial outcomes. Sparkles 4. Entertainment and media empire. Trump's media ventures amplified his global reach. The Apprentice made Trump a household name. Spin-off shows, guest appearances, and interviews reinforced visibility, leveraged fame to influence politics, business, and culture. He became a master of storytelling, using media as both weapon and shield. Sparkles 5. Sports and golf, global lifestyle dominion. Trump understood prestige and lifestyle as part of influence. Golf courses and clubs across the U.S., Scotland, Ireland, and Canada, memberships for high-profile clientele, hosting international events and tournaments. This sector connected business, branding, and social influence, reinforcing his global persona. Sparkle 6. Trump companies and business structure. Trump's empire is vast, involving the Trump Organization, the umbrella for all operations, Trump Entertainment Resorts, casino and entertainment business, Trump Hotels Management, luxury hospitality worldwide, licensing entities, allowing global use of the Trump name, Trump media and digital platforms, expanding influence into communications. Each business was part of a carefully orchestrated strategy of attention, branding, and financial leverage. Sparkle 7. Financial strategy and resilience. Trump's approach combines risk with audacity, real estate development with high leverage, public-private partnerships, brand licensing for cash flow and visibility, navigating bankruptcy strategically to protect assets and reputation. His financial philosophy: every risk is a calculated move toward power. Sparkles 8. International influence. Trump's empire is not limited to the U.S., skyscrapers in Toronto, Vancouver, and India, hotels in Panama, Turkey, and the Middle East, luxury licensing deals worldwide. This global footprint extends influence beyond economics, it shapes culture, social perception, and international recognition. Sparkles 9. Legacy through business. Trump's business life is a study in branding. A name is more powerful than capital alone. Risk management. Failures are opportunities for reinvention. Visibility. Every venture enhances personal and corporate reputation. Global impact. Influence extends across continents. His empire is as much cultural as financial, as much symbolic as material. Sparkles 10. Part 8. Closing thoughts. Donald Trump's business empire is the backbone of his life story. It is the canvas on which he painted ambition, audacity, and influence. Buildings, brands, media ventures, and international projects together form a legacy of power, strategy, and vision. The world saw skyscrapers, casinos, and hotels, but the true achievement was the creation of a persona, a brand, and a platform for influence that transcends any single venture. Tonight, we explore the complex web surrounding Donald J. Trump, the admiration, the criticism, the controversies, and the undeniable influence he has held over politics, media, and culture. Lady Hazelthorn will will guide you through the lens of history and perception, because understanding Donald Trump means understanding the mirror of America itself. Sparkles 1. The polarizing force. Donald Trump is perhaps one of the most polarizing figures of modern history. Millions view him as a symbol of strength, audacity, and authenticity. Millions criticize him as divisive, controversial, and unpredictable. This polarization is not accidental. Trump thrives in the spotlight, understanding that emotion drives engagement, and engagement drives influence, whether loved or despised. He cannot be ignored, and an influence, that is a form of power unmatched. Sparkles 2. Media relations and the power of narrative. Trump's mastery of media is legendary. Traditional media often criticized, mocked, or challenged him. Social media became a direct channel to millions. Every tweet, statement, and rally was amplified globally. Through media, Trump controlled narratives, shaped public perception, and turned criticism into fuel. The lesson is simple: influence depends on visibility, and visibility depends on action, presence, and audacity. Sparkles 3. Public perception and cultural impact. Trump's image resonates on multiple levels: business genius, celebrity icon, outsider politician, nationalist symbol. Pop culture embraced him, mocked him, and immortalized him. He became more than a politician, he became a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of an era, and a reference point for discussions about leadership, ambition, and power. Sparkles 4. Controversies and criticism. No life of influence is without friction. Trump faced impeachment trials, accusations of misconduct, public protests and opposition, criticism of policy decisions, media scrutiny of personal and business life. Yet even controversy became part of his strategy. Controversy kept him visible, controversy energized supporters, controversy framed him as a disruptor, not a conformist. In the realm of influence, perception often matters as much as reality. Sparkles 5. Political legacy and effects. Trump's influence on politics is undeniable, reshaping the Republican Party, energizing a new base of voters, changing campaign strategies, challenging political norms. Even those who disagree recognize the scale of his impact. He redefined how political figures engage with the public, how media and politics intersect, and how personal branding drives influence. Sparkle 6. International perception. Globally, Trump has provoked debate, admiration, and caution. Foreign leaders monitor his actions closely, international media reacts with fascination and critique. His policies impact global economics, diplomacy, and security. Trump is not just a domestic figure, he is a global symbol of audacity, disruption, and negotiation. Sparkles 7. The economic and business perception. Business leaders view Trump as a master of branding, a risk taker, a negotiator capable of unconventional strategies. His empire, combined with his presidency, gives him an influence few can rival. Critics argue about ethics and style, but few deny the ability to command attention and reshape perceptions. Sparkles 8. Social media and the new power dynamic. Trump's social media presence revolutionized communication, direct messaging to millions of followers, bypassing traditional media filters, rapid dissemination of viewpoints and narratives. He demonstrated that in the modern age, influence is about speed, reach, and narrative control. Sparkles 9. Balance of admiration and criticism. To analyze Trump is to embrace contradiction, admired for resilience, ambition, and loyalty to supporters, criticized for divisiveness, unfiltered statements, and unconventional methods. This duality is central to his influence. He is simultaneously revered and vilified, and both fuel his legacy. Sparkles 10. Part 9. Closing thoughts. Donald J. Trump's life is a mirror of modern society: rapid communication, global interconnectedness, polarized public opinion, celebrity influence in politics. He embodies the power of perception, branding, and relentless ambition. Controversy, admiration, and criticism all become instruments of influence. In understanding Donald Trump, we understand not only a man, but a society, a media-driven world, and the mechanics of influence itself. The final chapter, Part 10, will bring it all together. Reflection, lessons, and Lady Hazelthorn's closing narration of the full life review and legacy. Tonight, dear listener, we arrive at the final chapter of our journey through the life of Donald J. Trump, from Queens to Manhattan, from skyscrapers to the White House, from media fame to global influence, we reflect on the triumphs, the controversies, the lessons, and the legacy of a man whose name has become larger than life itself. I, Lady Hazelthorn, will take you through the full story, the reflections, and the truths behind the headlines. Sparkles 1. The life of ambition. Donald Trump's life is defined by relentless ambition, childhood lessons in discipline and competition, early immersion in real estate, strategic risk-taking, and bold decisions. From the very beginning, ambition shaped every move, every deal, every property, every business venture was a step toward influence and recognition. Ambition drove him, challenged him, and ultimately defined him. Sparkles 2. The rise of a business empire. Trump's empire is a story of vision, audacity, and resilience. Skyscrapers and hotels that dominate skylines, luxury resorts, golf courses, and entertainment ventures, global licensing deals that turned his name into a symbol. This empire was never just about wealth. It was a platform for influence, a foundation for power, and a canvas for a life of ambition. Sparkles 3. The power of media and public image. Trump transformed media into a tool. Television fame through The Apprentice, social media dominance, a persona that commanded attention. Through media, Trump blurred the lines between business, celebrity, and politics. He taught the world that visibility is power, and perception shapes reality. Sparkles 4. Political journey and presidency. Trump's political life is unparalleled. Outsider candidacy in 2016 that shocked the world, presidency marked by bold decisions, controversy, and resilience, policies reshaping economy, trade, and foreign relations. He redefined modern politics by combining business instincts, celebrity status, and direct communication with millions of Americans. Sparkles 5. Personal life and family. Behind the headlines lies the man, family roots in Queens, shaped by discipline and guidance, multiple marriages, raising children in the public eye, loyalty, ambition, and personal resilience as defining traits. Trump's personal life reinforced his public identity. A blend of family, power, and personal philosophy. Sparkle 6. Controversy and criticism. No life of influence is without friction, political opponents, media scrutiny, and public debate, legal battles, impeachment inquiries, and public protests. Yet, controversy became part of his strategy, to challenge norms, energize supporters, and remain unignorable. Sparkle 7. Global impact and recognition. Trump's influence extends beyond America. Business ventures worldwide, international recognition of both brand and persona, a symbol of audacity, negotiation, and disruption. The world reacts, debates, and studies Trump's actions, policies, and methods, proving that influence transcends borders. Sparkles 8. Lessons from the Trump story. From Donald Trump's life, we can draw timeless lessons: relentless ambition, pursue goals without compromise, resilience, turn setbacks into opportunities, branding and perception, identity is currency, direct communication, connect with people personally and authentically, risk and vision, audacity often defines success. His life demonstrates that power is not given, it is taken, and that influence is created, nurtured, and maintained through action. Sparkles 9. Legacy and influence. Donald Trump's legacy is multifaceted: a business icon whose empire spans continents, a media personality who shaped modern communication, a political figure who challenged norms and inspired debate, a symbol of ambition, risk, and audacity. His name will endure in architecture, politics, media, and culture, as a figure who could not be ignored, who defied expectations, and who left an indelible mark on history. Sparkles 10. Part 10, Final Reflections. As we close this story, we see Donald Trump not merely as a businessman, politician, or celebrity, but as a living testament to the power of audacity and influence, a man who built empires from scratch. A man who mastered media and public perception, a man who became president despite all odds, a man whose life reflects both admiration and controversy. In the end, history will judge him, but the lessons, the stories, and the legacy remain clear. Ambition, resilience, and audacity can change the course of a life, and sometimes, the course of a nation. And that, dear listener, concludes the full life story of Donald J. Trump, by Lady Hazelthorn. And so, dear listener, we come to the close of this extraordinary journey. From the streets of Queens, to the towers of Manhattan, to the most powerful office in the world, we have walked through the life, the ambitions, the victories, and the controversies of Donald J. Trump. We have seen a man who built empires, shaped media, defied expectations, and captivated the world with his audacity. We have glimpsed the personal life behind the public persona, the family, the challenges, and the relentless drive that fueled every decision. Whether admired or criticized, loved or questioned, one truth remains undeniable: Donald Trump's life is a story of ambition, resilience, and influence, a story that will echo through history. Thank you for joining me, Lady Hazelthorn, in this deep exploration. May this story inspire reflection, curiosity, and a recognition that every life, when lived boldly, leaves a mark that cannot be erased. Until we meet again, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the extraordinary stories that shape our world.